Gasland, I want to mention. Gasland is a documentary by Josh Fox, which got a lot of acclaim at the Sundance Film Festival, and it's essentially a film about drilling for natural gas. Essentially what happens is that the guy who made the film, Josh Fox, who I think is a New York theatre director, at the beginning of the film is offered some money for the rights to drill for gas on his property, which is in Pennsylvania, and he decides rather than taking the money, he's going to go out and speak to other people who have had natural gas drilling sites put on their property, and uncovers much in the manner of the sort of slew of oil documentaries that we had last year. There were 3, maybe even 4 oil documentaries last year about how oil companies would move into areas, drill for oil, and pollute the environment in the process. Well, natural gas, right, you think this can't be as bad, but it talks about this process called fracking. Fracking is fracturing, hydraulic fracturing. The way you get rid of gas, apparently, is that you hydraulically fracture the earth well below the surface of the earth. It could cracks, and then gas then comes out, and you can then mine it. But in order to do the hydraulic fracturing, you have to put down into the ground water that has a toxic mix of chemicals in it, which, due to a legislative loophole, is not covered by the Clean Water Act, and nor is it subject to the kind of legislation that says exactly what are you putting into the ground and where. So, a narrator and filmmaker who has a voiceover which some people may consider rather irritating. He talks like this, very, very quietly, and occasionally a little bit poetic, and he says, I'm standing, and it is very much, yeah, okay, fine, enough with that, move on with the story. Goes out, speaks to people who have encountered this kind of stuff, overtaking their land, discovers, as we expect in this kind of documentary, all manner of bad things, headaches, nausea, illness, stuff which is, but in the sort of pièce de résistance, finds these people who, it turns out, can set fire to the water coming out of their taps. And they talk about this at the beginning of the documentary. You think, yeah, well, this isn't actually going to happen. And then there on film is this footage, which is really, really strange. Goes around to people's houses. These people have been drilling for natural gas. What effects it had? Well, our water started bubbling and now it catches fire. Really? Yeah, show me. Turn on the tap, hold a lighter to it. Blimey, Charlie, the water catches fire. Now, the documentary itself, as I said, does come after a slew of documentaries about the way in which the oil industry has not been well managed. And it's particularly ironic this is happening at a time when we're in the wake of the fallout from the oil disaster recently, in which Americans are saying, oh, how terrible, all this pollution is happening. But this is happening on their own land and is currently not being dealt with by the regulations. But the story itself is given this just quite extraordinary visual kick by the fact that you see people setting their taps on fire. I mean, it's a very interesting story which is made better by the fact that the visuals of it are very poetic, very lyrical. It has a sort of, a genuine sense of yearning for the old country, and there's a film about the contradiction of, on the one hand you have open farmland, on the other hand you have natural gas drilling wells everywhere. So it's about mechanisation versus agriculture to some extent, but it's also about the right to clean water, which would seem like a primary human right. And it has this almost circus trick thing in it, which is, you know what, this water has got so many bad things in it, you can set fire to it. And it ends up saying, look, you need to get involved, you need to find out more about this. And having seen the movie, I feel that one does.